Your front row seat to the stories behind the Indian art world and the trailblazers defining it. One conversation at a time. Today we have with us Amit Vadehra, who co-runs Crayon Art Gallery, displaying some of India's finest works and artists, from the pre-modern gems of Raja Ravi Verma to the modern artists, to the modern masters, dare I say, of F.N. Souza and M.F. Hussain, to contemporary superstars in today's world. So tell me, Amit, Crayon is a secondary gallery.
That's right.
And does that prove any difficulty in getting your works?
I would say quite the opposite, because the primary galleries are essentially restricted to artists that they're working with over a period of time, whereas secondary galleries, we're kind of an open book. So we can have relationships with all the galleries in India, outside India, all the auction houses, curators, and we can, and collectors, buyers, sellers. So we're a little bit of an open book, and I think it's exciting that we can source from anybody. We're not restricted to the set of artists that, let's say a primary gallery would be. So I think secondary is more of a fun space, I would say.
Okay, so interesting. You have much more freedom than primary galleries.
I can get a Hussain, I can get a Ravi Verma. I need not be associated to either of the artists. If I want a Subodh Gupta, I can approach a Subodh Gupta gallery and work with, the gallery there. So I think it's more fun.
That's great.
And I think we're more collector driven. So depending on what the collector wants, is something that we can source from anywhere in the world.
And you see that happening quite often at Crayon.
I think the collectors now have become fairly discerning. So, a collector comes and says, hey, a typical collector would say, I want a Hussain with horses. But the very specific collectors would say, I want a Souza of a specific period. This is the size, this is the genre. I don't have that particular work in my collection. And that's a challenge that we like to kind of take up and find that particular work, from somewhere in the world, and possibly say that, hey, that guy had one work, 10 years back, which was there, and maybe he wants to sell. So, it's kind of connecting the dots. So that's happening all the time. All the discerning collectors are saying, can you find something interesting for us? And maybe once a year or once in 6 months, we'll find just that work. And when we send, the exciting part is that when we send a particular work to that collector, he will say, wow, that's it. You've captured, my emotions. You've captured what I wanted. And you've also got the piece of the puzzle that I did not have. So that's what is exciting.
And is linking those two, finding that equilibrium, difficult for you?
I think it's extremely difficult. I think it's, because as the collectors continue to grow and become more discerning, more specific to their tastes, I think it takes a huge amount of, let's say, resources, possibly memory and things like that to actually match. So it's becoming more and more difficult. Currently, for the modern masters specifically, there is a shortage of supply. So not too many people are selling. The prices are extremely high. And it's becoming more and more difficult to find that match.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You've had such influential figures in your life, from Uncle Arin to Amol, who is no longer with us. What has been one piece of advice that has stuck with you throughout?
Let me start with Amol, right? So Amol, while we grew up, was constantly, somebody who at age 10, 12, onwards, didn't buy the cars and all the toys, but constantly sought after possibly buying art. We at that time, playing in gardens and things like, and parks, we could not really get what he wanted to do, but he was extremely passionate about it. So with Amol, growing up with his eyes, which were, maybe considered one of the best in the art world, where he knew, saying, this work is unbelievable, just go ahead and buy it. So when he would tell a collector, at that time, this is years back, that, buy this work, the collector would, blindly go and buy that work, because he knew, the nuances of that work. He knew the artist, he knew why the person had painted, and he knew the history of that work. And so he could tell quality from a mile away. He could tell, let's say, why that work was important. He had a great habit of reading books. So he read all the books, he read about all the artists, and also he had fantastic relationships with all the artists. So I think that really helped. But I think the one thing that over the years I would have maybe got from Amol was his taste in art. So recently, about a year back, I bought a Hussein, and some people came to my house and they said, "Hey, that Hussein Amol would have really liked." So I think what rubbed off over the years is his taste of art rubbed off maybe in a little way, so that's what is interesting. Arun Chacha, I think pretty much what we've done in art is clearly because of him, because of all the, immense amount of time that we spent in his room, with having fruity, which is what he loved. So we spent hours and hours. Gaurav and I spent learning, pretty much knowing nothing, absolute zero. We just said, "Hey, let's do something in art." And so we went to him saying, obviously he's going to help us. And he did. Literally at every step he helped us and said, "Now do this, now do this. This is the right thing." And over the years, I think spending time with him, we learned an immense amount, right? Things like art is never sold, it's always bought. So you never go out and sell art. You're always saying, "Hey, this is something interesting, I would recommend it." We also said, collectors used to come and say that, "Hey, I'd like to spend this much money and this much money and buying art." He used to say, "Hey, you don't know anything. Go back, read books, come back after 2 years, learn about what you're actually buying, and then make the purchase. Don't go do a blind purchase." So I think too many things. I think right from what is quality, what art is, right to the financials, the commercials of art, how art is sold. I think he's being a constant guiding factor throughout.
What's been your fondest memory with him regarding art?
I think when he used to be part of the Christie's India kind of
you
represented them. So I think all the trips that we did to London and New York were, I think, extremely memorable, where we used to go to either his London apartment and have a chat with him on which works to actually buy, go through the catalog and say, "This is interesting, this is interesting." So I think that was a huge learning, and we used to do it maybe every 3 months, London or New York.
That's pretty frequent.
A lot of fun.
Lucky you. What's the most significant change you have seen in your career for these 2 decades you've been in the art market?
I think when we started, we were young. We used to pretty much buy, we used to buy the top moderns, but we did not kind of really understand quality to that level. About interesting, so 2 significant moments, I think. The first significant moment is when we were 2006, 7, and 8, when the art market was booming, and we were all like, "Hey, nothing can happen in the art market." It's, we had a Lehman crash happen in 2000 and the art market fell. And that was a huge learning for us. Huge. Means that, artworks that we had bought for, let's say, X were reduced to, prices much, much lower. So it was a correction which happened in the art world and everything in the world, real estate and everything else. So a huge learning that art can also correct. So I think that was a pivotal kind of a moment for us to understand that, hey, don't go that aggressive. Don't go, don't buy something today for 100, sell it for 200 tomorrow. So I think that was there.
So how do you discern that quality in a work? Like, for example, how do you differentiate a good Sousa from something that's great?
I think it's just about, I think you read a lot of, books. You understood what, Sousa really stood out for. What are his different genres? What are the different years that he's at his peak in terms of his artwork? And then, so, in Sousa, you have the 50s and 60s, which is kind of extremely sought after because, it's considered to be the peak. In Raza, you had a peak, which is, interestingly, the 80s, when he was from the abstracts going into the geometrics. So I think those are you have to study when an artist is kind of moving from one genre to another, and also understand his thought process within that genre. So there's a lot. But obviously you read different aspects. You learn from people who interacted with the artist and said, hey, this is what he was doing, this is what he was interested in, this is who he was. And that's how you learn and say, hey, and then at the end of the day, it's about what you connect with. So I connect with Sousa's more than, let's say, somebody else. Interestingly, now in the last 3 years, I've connected with Raza watercolors, which were not really sought after earlier, but now I like a Raza watercolor, I must have it. So it's like that. So it changes over a period of time.
So you're talking about the 2007, 2008 market crash. How did Crayon pull through that?
Early 2009, a very interesting story. So I would say January 2008, we were offered an extremely large collection of works, Sousa works. Actually, there were about 36 of them, absolutely the top works. And somebody offered it to us at, and this is confidential news, but or let's say a story. So somebody offered it to us at $15 million. We said, it's too much. $15 million was way too much money at that point. Still, it's still a lot of money.
Yet.
Then, let's say slightly later, maybe July, August, somebody said, hey, I'm getting a great deal. I'm getting it at about $7.5 million. January 2009, we together with friends bought, that particular 36 work collection for $4.5 million. And I think that, was the best collection we ever bought, the most, best quality we ever bought. And so I think that was, the market crash helped in us purchasing that collection at maybe a fourth of the price.
If you don't mind my asking, how long did you hold it for?
Held it for, I think, over 3 to 4 years. Okay. Yeah. I wish we'd held it till now. Then, years would be different. Everybody would be like, oh my God, I just, so yeah.
There's a lot of buzz about the modern masters, and everywhere you go, you see your Sens, you see your Sousas, you see your Christian Khannas. When do you think the contemporary Indian art market will pick up to that level, if you think it will?
So we're looking at a commercial sense. According to me, the contemporary art market is already picked up. I think people are already buying contemporary. I think modern masters are rare and few available, and there is only a limited supply of the modern masters, right? So obviously the number of Ascents are limited, or Sousa, Vataya, Mehtas, or so the contemporary market is already picking up. It might not be at the values that we're talking about. It might not be millions and millions of dollars, but that will happen over a period of time. That's the natural progression. Hussein used to sell at $1,000 in a Christie's, and so I think it's already picking up. New artists are already coming in. It's just it depends on what artist really kind of hits the chord.
Out of the new contemporary artists, who do you feel is up next?
Super tough question. Who do you think? In the senior contemporary artists, the Adil Dodias, the Subodh Guptas, Bharti Kher, Jitish, these are the artists which will become, let's say, the next M.F. Hussains or the Sousas or the Christian Khanna.
So what do you feel could be the most significant change coming in our time? Do you think the both of us will ever see another renaissance in art?
I would say yes, right? I'm a big believer in technology, as you would know. So I feel that technology will change how art really appeals to a collector, right? So currently we're looking at, flat canvases, you're looking at three-dimensional objects, but I think that over a period of time, it'll be more artificial intelligence. You'll have things like more things you touch, feel, kind of appeals to the, other senses rather than just sight.
Okay.
So
what's the next word?
Imagine where you come into a room and you kind of actually feel something rather than see, or you actually like hear something and that is engaging rather than, so it's not something that a flat canvas is not something that is going to define art. And you could just come into a room and this is an art room. So people will say, what is it? Hey, say, can you feel it? Can you feel the vibrations?
What a brilliant idea. Why don't you create that? Why don't you be the next?
Not an artist.
And so on.
I'm sure somebody's already doing it. I'm sure somebody's already doing it. So,
but on a bigger scale, it'll be coming.
It's already done, as in the same. So we saw a particular artist called Martha Fiends who does AI generated digital art, and we saw it in one of Dubai art fairs, and then we brought it to Delhi and we showed it in a large 30 foot by 20 foot canvas. So and you saw people literally sitting on the bench and watching and fixated. And interestingly, none of the frames in that particular video art were repeated. So everything was AI generated. This is 5 years back. That's how AI is popular, and now it's already done it.
Now it's booming even more. So more about Crayon. How do you see your gallery contributing to the art community as a whole?
I think the art community currently is fragmented. Indian art community is tiny, as in super, super tiny compared to, China or the rest of the world. I think what needs to happen is that the art community needs to kind of work in a cohesive manner.
And how would it do that?
So I think the galleries, the artists, the museums, currently only ones, need to collectively kind of take art to the next level. I think KNMA is doing a fabulous job in doing that. The museum that will come up in 2027 will showcase Indian art to, the rest of the world. I was going to say India, but the rest of the world, So I think that needs to happen. The Indians need to engage with art a little more. Just a little exhibition like this doesn't kind of quite cut it. So KNMA is going to kind of be the leader in that. Yeah. And if the community gets together and does things cohesively, I think it's a fantastic community. Everybody like-minded. So I think that's something that is missing. And if we can kind of steer that to happen, it'll be a lot of fun.
And in your vision, where is the seat for Crayon? Where do you feel that you may aid this future?
Very interesting question. So, and I've often thought about how can we help, right? And we had a question before said, why the secondary market? So, interestingly, Crayon and, Gaurav and I have had great relationships with, all the people in the art community for maybe a couple of decades now. So, that relationship could possibly steer us to bring people together. So if we have an artist we know, if we have a gallery we know, we have known auction house, we know a consultant, a curator, a museum, we can get them together. So I think it's easy for us to pick up the phone and say, hey, so-and-so, why don't you come for a meeting and let's kind of solve this, puzzle that we have and come together and solve it rather than, kind of do things separately. I don't think art galleries should kind of work as competitors. I think we should work together.
Besides that and the fragmentation of the art community, what do you see as the biggest challenge or any of the other big challenges in the art community? Is there anything on that level that's that pressing? Yeah, continue.
I think the art market, one of the biggest challenges at the moment is authenticity. And I think that challenge is something that only, going back to the art community getting together, that's the only way it'll help. So authenticity is a massive challenge, and we have pretty much no way to figure things out. We have ways, but the ways are, again, debate.
Not concrete, yeah.
Not concrete, not like, hey,
absolutely.
Is this Kishan Khanna real? Boom. Now, it's dependent on, the gallerist's eye to tell. There has to be a system to make that happen. So people are working towards that system. I think that system is happening.
A method to the madness.
The method to the madness. And I think that if we are able to do it together as a community, we're sorted. But that's something that one should really focus on. So maybe your podcast will help people understand it. Yeah.
So back to Crayon. How do you handle the commercial pressures of running a gallery?
Commercial pressures are huge. I think the constant focus, at least that we have over the last 8 years or so, is that we like to do things of quality. If you do things of quality, it's always, appreciated, let's say, by a collector. So the commercial pressures kind of get, lesser and lesser. If you have a quality artwork, a collector, ideally it should be a scenario that 2 or 3 collectors or more collectors are looking to buy that work. So I think making sure that you're doing things of a certain quality. In the last maybe 5 or 6 years, we were doing things with a certain amount of drama. It's like
Flair.
Apple launched iPhone 16 and, you're smiling because you knew that I mentioned something like that. So I'm saying that Apple launched 16, so nobody really knew, or, Apple does this, that everything is a secret. Vision Pro is a secret, or, it's a new feature, a secret. So what we've done in the art world is taken a cue from that and so many other thoughts and some collectors advising us that have a bit of drama.
Yeah, we have seen that with the displays of the early Vermeers.
Yeah.
Sorry, continue.
So we did that once, and people were like, what are you guys up to? Like, you created a massive room and you're only on one artwork. I said, yeah. So why are you guys doing that? Like, does it make sense? I said, no. So is it making any kind of commercial sense for you guys? Like, are you going to sell it? I said, no. So why are you doing it in the first place? I said, we're just having fun. So now, interestingly, it's just by that fun, that drama quotient is now everybody comes, and we've done it for now about 6-8 years, and now everybody comes and says, hey, what are you guys displaying? I said, we can't tell you. It's a secret. So that drama is something which is, and now we have a little line outside our gallery saying, we want to come in and see what these guys are up to, what these two, crazy people who don't make sense, but what are they up to, so people want to know. So I think a little bit of drama is important.
Throughout the history of crayons, what would you consider curatorially the most successful exhibition that you've hosted?
You said it, right? We put one work in a dark space.
In the art fair, which was just so packed with.
So everybody had white walls and everybody had artwork hanging, and we put one work in a dark space. So literally when the person came in, it took a few seconds for the person to adjust, because, there was light outside, there was darkness inside, and then they went in and they said, wow, and we should have literally, we've not done that. We should have captured on video and sound what the reactions were. They were incredible. So everybody used to come out and say, oh my God, now you must go in. So that, and, so the media covered it, curators covered it, and basically, everybody enjoyed what they saw. So they remembered us from that. And I think that's interesting. You go to an art fair, you don't remember what you saw. But I think when they remembered that we had an Amit Vadehra.
Yeah, as you were talking about, the senses and...
Exactly.
Yeah. When you're completely blinded in a black room and all you can see is one piece, that's art.
We had a few years back, we had a show where we put a 30-foot Hussein. So I think that was one of the best reactions. So what we did is we got an actual Hussein figure, like a Madame Tussauds, right? And we created an actual image of what Hussein wanted, or what Hussein's poster had. So he made a poster of this particular artwork. He sent it out to friends and family, including a mole, and he said 2 or more by Hussein, right? He created this poster of this 30-foot artwork, and he put himself, a bucket of paints, him holding a brush, and him standing there. We recreated that scene. And again, nobody knew. There was a lot of drama, hey, what? So somebody said there was a coffee stand inside the booth. So somebody said, let me have a coffee inside. And then they just had a coffee. We went inside and then, so it was literally like, this lady said, I got a heart attack. Well, I thought Hussein was standing there, and she had not realized that she's coming into the booth and there'll be like a Hussein. So and I was just standing right there, and while she was having a mini heart attack looking at Hussein. And there were people crying, there were people taking photographs and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was interesting.
Back to the idea of forgery in art. Have you ever had to deal with an art forgery? Like, I'm sure you deal with it like almost every day in the art world, but what's the most significant time you had to deal with it, and what's the most memorable outcome?
So I wouldn't say forgery. I would say that there's a lot of people who are, because the values have gone up, people are, and there is no method to the madness. We're not able to authenticate in a kind of a very clear system, right? Shares have demat accounts, properties have certain ways of making sure the property is correct. An artwork needs provenance, as you know, right? So, you need to have the history of who bought the artwork, especially when you're looking at modern masters. Contemporaries is easy because you're buying it from the gallery. The artist exists, everything is easy in getting a certificate. In the modern masters and then going into the pre-modern, it gets increasingly later. We've had one particular case where we've had a Ravi Verma. So we generally looked at it and thought it was okay. We did what we call carbon dating and, chemical analysis and UV. And after a month of doing all that, it was okay. So imagine that a Ravi Verma, we're looking at it, it's okay, the features are okay, things are okay. The carbon dating is okay, the canvas, literally the canvas is 100 years old, the paint is 100 years old. Somebody had an thing that it might not be correct. So we had another artist come and look at that work. That artist had seen Ravi Verma's works over a period of time and knew what the works are. And he came and said, it doesn't matter what the analysis says. It doesn't matter what anybody says. This particular work is not right because the artist never painted these two figures together. So, he literally knew what the artist would do and would not do. Like Amol would know Hussein's strokes. Yeah. So if he saw a painting from really far away and said, not right. Right. Because he literally spent so much time with Hussein and saw him painting that he knew how his hand, went and what would be the stroke.
He lost the canvas, every small detail.
So that was an interesting moment to say that, hey, you can do absolutely everything. And if the provenance and forget the paperwork, give the provenance and if you're not feeling it, just drop it.
Back to pricing at Crayon. How do you approach pricing in a competitive market like the Indian art market?
At least how I approach it is, hey, this is the best work that exists. This is the best price that we can give it to you. There are 100 more people, in line. Well, I'm giving it to you first. So I think prices over the last few years have increased dramatically.
So COVID?
Well, during COVID.
During COVID, everybody started interesting because we saw everything just falling.
Art went up.
Why was that?
To everybody's disbelief, then everybody thought that, hey, art will also go down. People were just chilling at home, didn't know what to do with their money. People were getting tons and tons of money from various sources, and they didn't know what to do with it. So say, hey, let's buy art here. What do I do? I can't spend the money. I can't go for holidays. There's no beaches. There's nothing. I'm stuck at home in a lockdown. What do I do? So let me read a book. Obviously, everybody made banana bread, as you know. And everybody became cook, something, and people bought art during that time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, Amit, what's the most memorable piece of art you've ever sold?
Well, there have been a few instances. Some we've tried to sell and we've not sold as well. But one time when we were, this is about 10 years back, and there was a collector who wanted a Tayyab Mehta. And so I said, where can we show you the work? He says, well, I'm traveling all the time. So I said, so we can come to Bombay, Delhi, Timbuktu, wherever you want us to be, where can we show it to you? He says, no, I'm traveling from here to there, let me not get into specifics, but so he was constantly traveling and we were literally not able to pin him down. And then, we got a call saying that this guy is sitting in Spa in Europe. I'm not giving the city or the...
Yeah.
So this guy's sitting in a spa in Europe.
In a spa?
At a spa in Europe.
Okay.
And, he's there for 2 days. So can you come? I say, okay. So Gaurav and I literally, we got to know in the morning, and in the evening we were on a flight. We were at the airport, all that. The work was in London. So we called up the London logistics person and said, in about 12 hours, we want you to literally put the work in a van and drive. He says, it's not possible. I said, just do it. Just figure it out, do it, because the guy is only there for 2 days and we've been hunting him down for the last, 6 months or so. So they did it. They made it happen. In about 12 or 14 hours, a van group, was driving from London to this place. We flew, we met this guy, and I still remember, and getting into specifics, interesting that the guy came in a robe, just after a massage or some whatever, and he came in a robe, and we had two guys, Europeans, with white gloves, standing with this Tayyab Mehta, massive, 6 feet work, standing in a balcony. And he came with the robe, Gaurav and I, a little serious. This guy said, I like it. And that's it. Then he made one call, and, in about 30 seconds, he hung up and said, we take it. That's it. And then we went out for dinner with him and all. So, we became friends, and we went out, and we had a great trip. Post that, we had a holiday in the spa, a little bit in the spa, and then we went to various other places. So that was, we've had many such interesting, memorable things where we, on the spur of the moment, take an artwork, fly a guy down, do some crazy stuff to make sure that, the collector wants it. We need to connect the dots, as we discussed earlier. So how to connect the dots? Timing is key. The guy wants it now. Maybe after some time, he'll be like, hey, I have to act on that impulse. Yeah, you have to act at that particular point of time, and you also have to, he might buy something else from somewhere else. So he needs to get that work with that color, that size, at that time, sitting in a spa in a robe. I'm sure he also remembers that's the craziest painting that he's bought, and it was at a crazy price as well.
If you could represent any historical artist, who would it be and why?
I think Ravi Verma. If he were to represent, I think it's more about the reactions that we've got from people, like I was talking about the art fair. And I think, Ravi Verma as an artist resonates with pretty much everybody, so the Indian population as such kind of recognizes Ravi Verma. Obviously, another artist would be M.F. Hussain. But yeah, so Ravi Verma, because it's an interesting artist. It's also, like I said, people relate to it. It's Indian, and what he did at that particular point of time is something that
nobody has to. Yeah. What's the secret to curating a show?
Drama
and flair. And flair.
Yeah. No, it's flair, but like I said, drama. Drama is how we've created our shows. The 30-foot Hussain, or we had I think, a little bit of drama, a little bit of quality. So the works have to be of extremely high quality. I think that's what, So, yeah.
What is your greatest fear while curating a show?
No fears.
No fears? Destinies? Straight out. Don't exist.
Easy. Okay.
If you could curate a dream exhibition, what would it be and why?
Well, personally, there'll be drones flying in my show, So that, you know that, right? So,
a lot of tech.
Well, there'll be a lot of tech.
Yeah.
If I were to do a show, there'll be a huge amount of tech. There'll be a huge amount of tech in the thing. So yeah, there'll be AI, there'll be senses, there'll be all sorts of stuff. So that'll be how I'll curate a show. So that somebody comes in and says, "Hey, what is going on?"
So would that be restricted to just Indian art, or do you expect yourself?
No, anywhere, internationally.
Okay.
Anything cool. It has to be cool and fun.
What's been your biggest challenge while curating a show?
Currently, the challenge is to source. In today's world, the challenge is to source high quality art. Find things that collectors have not seen, unseen, right? and also making sure at all points of the time that, every art piece that you display in an exhibition is authentic. So you literally have to get into the history of every artwork, provenance, was it bought in an auction, FV, who's the expert in that particular artist, and therefore ask him saying, have you seen this work? So we'll say, yeah.
Okay, so many people view art as an investment good. Do you believe in that philosophy, or do you think otherwise?
I think art is an investment, but, you can, and we have considered it as one, but I feel that art is something that you buy personally and something that you want to keep in your house, you want to look at for a period of time. And therefore it is something that should appeal to that particular individual, right? A lot of people collect art just because, I'll get a call saying, hey, I have so much money. Will my money double? I said, hey, hang on.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Nobody can predict any of that. But if you like it, I think this is what I would say is that this is a good artist, has the necessary history. And this particular artwork, like the one at the back, for example, I was telling somebody, Krishan Khanna, tabla player. Well, I was telling him that, I think this is a good buy. Now, can I tell you this is going to double, triple in the next 2 to 5 years?
That's impossible.
Impossible. Yeah. Is it a good quality that you're buying? For sure. Good artist? That's it. Just stick to that. And will you enjoy hanging it and, appreciating it every day at your home? Yeah.
In your opinion, what makes it good?
Do you like it? Yeah. What do you like about it? Do you like the colors?
I like the colors. I like the depiction of the figures.
You like the figures? You like a little bit of the movement?
Yeah.
I was a tabla player, so that's why I like it, actually.
Tabla player?
So I used to play the tabla, and that's why this particular work is something that I like a lot. And obviously, Kishan Khanna, if you know the works that, he has the bandwalas and the musicians. So that's a typical Kishan Khanna with, let's say, tabla players. So I connected with it because of the colors, because of the genre that...
Your personal history with...
And mine. So therefore, I would put it up, and because I would put it up, not necessarily mean that you would put it up, but I consider it a good quality artwork. That's it. I would enjoy having it, and I would tell people the story behind it, which means that why I bought it, I like the colors, enjoyed the movement, the tabla was there, I played the tabla, so hence I bought the art. So there has to be a little bit of a story.
You don't sell art, people buy it.
Yeah. Well done. So Azu, well done.
Right. So moving on to the rapid fire question.
Awesome.
Yeah. If you could have dinner with any artist, past or present, who would it be and what would you ask?
MF right? We've had dinner with him and most interesting man.
Have you ever shown a piece of work that you were secretly embarrassed by?
No.
Nope. That's good. Who's an overvalued popular Indian artist?
I can't say somebody will kill me.
What is your favorite work of art that you personally own?
Hussein, which I recently bought, which I mentioned a mole.
Yeah.
And it's a cubist from 1960s. Yeah.
What's the most unexpected reaction you've seen to your to an exhibition you've curated?
I told you, right? That girl who walked in for a coffee.
Yeah.
And then she got a mini heart attack. So,
what's the one question you wish interviewers would ask but never do? And can you answer it?
Interviewers would ask, how do I authenticate, and things like that. So I wish there was a system to make that happen.
In terms of your competitors in the market, who is your biggest inspiration?
We don't have any competition, as I said. We collaborate and work together. Yeah.
Okay. That's a good answer. What's the most extravagant demand you've ever made or seen made by an artist, client, or collector?
So collector said, I want a Raza ink, but I want a Ganesh in it. And Raza does not do Ganesh paintings. So yeah, it's a completely crazy demand.
Yeah. Just not even...
The collector clearly did not know what was going on.
What's the strangest place you've ever displayed a piece of art?
Have I ever displayed? But I've seen art,
Would you go back to that example of the
art on the ceiling, and
Okay,
art in the washroom.
interesting. What's the most unusual piece of art you've ever seen? Something that just stuck out to you, and something that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Wow, it's a really tough one. I'm thinking tech, and I'm going to Ravi Verma, so I'm kind of bouncing around.
Yeah.
You know, I enjoyed Martha Fiends, which I mentioned. A particular Ravi Verma work called Kadambari. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You describe it?
You come and see it in a show next time.
Where do you see your gallery 10 years down the line?
In a giant building, imagine, in a best location in Delhi, Bombay, in just one piece of art inside. And there's a queue outside waiting to go in.
Good vision.
Yeah.
Can you share some personal interactions with artists, curators, gallerists, things that have gone right, things that have gone wrong?
I think the most fun interactions have been with Mrs. Nader.
So,
So I think when we've had, lengthy chats or, sitting in a house and all that, I think the fun quotient is incredible. She's an unbelievable woman, obviously, been collecting. So her stories, and then you mix some of her stories with yours. I think those are one of the best interactions that you've had. And the fact that she takes the bar of doing anything to many, many levels up. So you're like, are you actually going to do this? She said, yeah, why not? Okay, yeah, we need to learn.
how do you hope to be remembered in the art world? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
This is possible, a collection museum, like a tiny museum where you have
The Amit Vadehra
Amit Vadehra.
Museum. About it.
Maybe there's only one work.
That seems to be a recurring theme. So that's your legacy. And what about Crayon?
Crayon will continue to have, bigger spaces and more bigger spaces, and maybe had 2 artworks instead of 1.
Would you ever consider doing 3?
No.
Look, that's the lie. So that's the limit you must draw. So, thank you very much.
Awesome chatting.
And
Thank you.
thank you for listening or watching.
Thank you.